Hello everyone, I'm Dave Despain. Welcome to the Daytona 500 edition of MotorWeek Illustrated. By this time tomorrow, it'll all be over. On her 25th anniversary, Daytona International Speedway will have crowned her favorite son, winner of the world's richest stock car race, the $1 million Daytona 500. But today, well, the beach is buzzing with pre-race tension, the excitement of one of the wildest speed weeks ever. Now, in the next half hour, we'll show you some of the hairiest race highlight footage in captivity. Bob Barcia will report on the Florida short track scene, and we'll take our final pre-race look at the 500. We begin with pole qualifying. Last Monday, a windy day followed a complete rainout of Sunday's activity, and it was a day that made Daytona history. This is Cale Yarborough trying to put a Waddell Wilson-prepared car on the Daytona pole for the 5th straight year. Aided by strong winds on the backstretch, Cale cracks the 200-mile-per-hour barrier at Daytona, 200.503. But watch what happens on Yarborough's second lap. Running even faster, he loses it in turn 4 and disaster strikes. That strong wind lifts that 3,200-pound Monte Carlo like a leaf and tosses it into the wall, one of the most awesome crashes in Daytona history. The CBS television pictures are mind-boggling. The fact that Yarborough walked away testifies to the durability of these cars. Now, that hard crash cost Cale Daytona's first 200-mile-per-hour pole run. Ken Squire picks up the story of the 500 surprise pole winner.
After the Cale Yarborough pyrotechnics had been completed, the man on the pole for the 25th annual Daytona 500 at 198.8 miles per hour was Ricky Rudd. 6th time you've been on the pole, but never more important, you were the big surprise. Were you surprised?
Well, we were a little bit, Ken. We didn't really get the practice time like we wanted to. The weather got to us a little bit. We didn't really know what we had. The team worked all winter long on a special qualifying motor to run here. But we really didn't know what it was going to do simply for the fact that we got behind in practice. The crew worked hard, put the car on the line. They felt like it was their best shot, but we still, up until that time, didn't know how fast it would go.
Did the wind help you? Did it sail you into turn number 3? Yarborough said he went in there about 10 miles an hour faster on the lap when he went over 200 miles per hour.
Well, I knew I was running fast. I didn't really know how fast. I had the tack covered up with tape so I wouldn't look at it and didn't want to scare myself. I knew it was a good lap. I knew that I could really hear the motor really wound up. But it was a go-for-broke type situation. You know, I had to plant the gas pedal on the floor and just hang on to it. But I could tell it was probably 10 to 15 mile an hour quicker than I had hit that corner all week long.
So that's how the Piedmont Airlines flight number 3 will leave on schedule at the front of the parade in tomorrow's Daytona 500.
A Rudd's 6th Grand National and first Daytona 500 pole was half a youthful assault on Daytona's front row. Second fastest, Jeff Bodine, 1982 Rookie of the Year. Former modified star has inherited the Gatorade backing Bobby Allison had last year, and Bodine put the green and white number 88 outside row 1. Cale Yarborough's 200-mile-per-hour circuit will stand as the new Daytona one-lap record, but because that spectacular crash destroyed his car, Cale had to re-qualify his backup machine on Wednesday. He did at just under 196 miles an hour. And we've been telling you about our new behind-the-scenes award that's going to honor the unsung heroes of racing. Well, for this week's winner, the award is a consolation prize. Waddell Wilson, one of the legendary engine builders in motorsports, didn't win that incredible 5th straight Daytona pole because of Cale's crash. But he gave Yarborough enough motor to turn the Speedway's first 200-mile-per-hour lap, and that's the kind of effort our behind-the-scenes award is intended to offer. So, congratulations to Waddell Wilson, who's now in the running for a new Honda motorcycle that goes to the winner of our year-end behind-the-scenes award. Qualifying, just the tip of the Daytona iceberg. More wild and woolly Speed Week highlights right after this. The Daytona 500 is celebrating its 25th birthday, and for the last 5 years, the pre-race action has included the Busch Clash, basically a winner-take-all free-for-all among the previous year's Grand National pole sitters. Well, this year, the field included a so-called wild card entry who didn't actually win an 82 pole, but whose name was drawn from among the fastest second-day qualifiers at all of last year's Winston Cup races. The wild card starting spot to Neil Bonnet, who took the flag in the last row in this chase for a $50,000 pot of gold at the end of a 20-lap rainbow. The first few laps looked like a Ford runaway. Pole sitter Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt in a fast draft leaving the field. But on lap 4, defending Clash champ Bobby Allison destroys his new Miller Beer Chevy on the front chute. That was his Daytona 500 car, and that's a big setback in Bobby's quest for a third 500 victory. On the restart, leader Elliott gets mobbed by Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt, and Bonnet, who'd come from the back with a typical Busch Clash charge. Let's watch close now as Bonnet slips past the edge, slides high in front of Elliott, then low in front of Buddy Baker. They touch, but everybody gets through. Now the real controversy. Earnhardt, third car in line, lays down a fog bank of oil smoke. He figured he had nothing to lose by ignoring the black flag that was waved by NASCAR officials. He found out differently after the race. As the leaders swarmed into the final lap, it was typical Busch Clash border warfare. Backstretch, Bonnet stiff arms his way past Waltrip. Terry Labonte tries the high line past the Grand National champ. Labonte says Waltrip hit him. Here's the spectacular result. A last turn, last lap melee takes out Labonte, Earnhardt, and number 21 Buddy Baker. The survivors charged to the finish line where Bonnet held off Waltrip to snatch the $50,000 first prize. He's the 5th different winner in 5 years, the first Clash winner to come from the wild card starting spot. Now, Dale Earnhardt's share of the Busch Clash cash, about 10 grand, or it would have been if he hadn't ignored that black flag. For that violation, NASCAR fined Dale $10,000. You're looking at some expensive puffs of smoke. That's the heaviest fine NASCAR has ever levied. The judge says it's because past penalties apparently didn't work.
I guess that the ones that we've had in the past probably didn't make much of an impression on them that we mean what we say when we say something. It can create a very dangerous situation. Kid, you know, we saw a lot of smoke coming off that car, not knowing where it was coming from, or, you know, if something was going to happen to the engine at 200 miles an hour with 16 or 17 top cars there running, it's not very smart to just roll the dice to find out whether something's going to happen.
Earnhardt won no friends in officialdom when he told the press he works for car owner Bud Moore and not NASCAR, and Bud didn't radio him to pull in. But that big fine sure got Dale's attention.
After the race, I admitted that I was in the wrong. They were in the right. I knew they would have to penalize me or fine me, which I would thought would be somewhere around $500 to $1,000, and maybe some kind of probation. But $10,000, I think that's a little bit out of reach.
Having made their point about obeying the black flag, NASCAR agreed to drop half of Earnhardt's fine if he keeps his nose clean for the next 5 races. Rounding out last Monday's action, the Automobile Racing Club of America's ARCA 200, that organization's premier event. Rick Rowland qualified over 199 miles an hour, but yellow flags everywhere were the story of this ARCA Classic. Jim Hurlbut's red number 37, 190-mile-an-hour bun warmer, though he did a great job in maintaining control. Dave Simcoe tried a little different line, only to find the infield a bit slippery. And for L.T. Wechtel, the downfall was a blown engine that left him cutting donuts in his own oil and ended his hopes of Daytona glory. The bad luck wasn't limited to back markers. Pole sitter Rowland paced the field for 25 laps, and then he too took out membership in the If Only Club. That left a battle between road racing veteran Elliott Forbes Robinson, chased by Bob Brevac, but Brevac also got into trouble. His title hopes ended with grass-stained tires. He was able to get back on the racetrack, but never got back into contention. And so the lead fell to the 82 ARCA champion. That's Scott Stovall out front, chased by wily veteran Farrell Harris. But old Farrell, number 69, the ever-popular Kentucky coal miner and part-time racer, had the move that mattered. He took the lead and held it until debris on the racetrack brought out a yellow flag with just 2 laps to go. The field crossed under the checkers with Harris, the first man behind the pace car. Forbes Robinson got by Stovall for second just before the fall of that yellow flag. As you can see from the highlights so far, Speed Week has been something of a demo derby, and among those who has suffered the most, the defending 500 champion. Bobby Allison's best car, a Chevrolet Monte Carlo, gets wiped out in the Busch Clash as he broadslides it into the inside wall after a turn 4 spin. Bobby climbed in a backup Buick the next day and promptly demolished it. Grand National newcomer Howard Mark broke an oil line and spun right in front of him. So, Allison, who won $120,000 in the race last year, has already wiped out more than that much equipment this year. He'll defend his race title in a third-string short-track car. The AMA's Wrangler Supercross Series is in full swing, and last weekend in Seattle, a familiar face dominated the 2-race program. Bob Hurricane Hanna is back. After a broken leg at 81 and a lackluster season last year, Hanna literally stormed Seattle. In Saturday's race, he got the whole shot and led every lap, front-running a Team Honda Blitzkrieg that took 3 of the top 5 spots. But in Sunday's race, things were slightly different. Now, this is not the latest motocross dance step. These guys are landscaping their positions at the starting gate, just like a baseball pitcher manicuring the mound during his warm-ups. Packing down a line of dirt directly ahead of the front wheel cuts down time-consuming wheel spin on that all-important start. But when this gate dropped for a 20-lap main event, everybody got to turn one at the same time, and half the field didn't make it. Bikes and bodies go everywhere. Some remounted, but Danny Chandler was out with a knee injury. Escaping the first turn carnage, David Bailey, winner of the series opener at Anaheim, California, took the lead, and number 11 captured the crowd's fancy. He rode brilliantly. But it was Bob Hanna, number 12, who really had him on their feet. He made an awesome charge through the pack. Watch him blitz Magic Mark Barnett for 4th place on lap 6. Next time around, 3rd place Goat Brecker gets blown away by the Hurricane. Up front, Hanna's teammates, Bailey and Johnny O'Mara, number 4, were at war. But it didn't take long for Hanna to join the fray. He's the master at keeping the pressure on. One inside move doesn't work, so Hanna simply tries O'Mara again, forces the mistake, and takes over the number 2 spot. Don't think for a minute that teammates give each other any slack. Here's the breathtaking pass that wins the race. Hanna outside his teammate Bailey, the 26-year-old California motocross ace, on his way to an astonishing 57th career win. Bob Hanna sweeping the Seattle Supercross doubleheader, while Bailey edges O'Mara for 2nd. Honda sweeps the top 3, and the standings, too, reflect the prowess of Honda's '83 Supercross team, 3 of the top 4 riders on red bikes. Because of rain, it took 2 weekends for the National Hot Rod Association to get its Winston World Championship drag racing season off the starting line. The star of the sport's 23rd annual Winter Nationals at Pomona, California, the Lady in Pink. Shirley Muldowney, driving her brand new hot pink top fuel dragster, established herself as the favorite to repeat as Winston World Champ. She eliminated Johnny Abbott and Gary Beck en route to the Pomona finals. For the championship, Muldowney ran a 5.7 second quarter mile. Her opponent, Jody Smart, lit up the tires off the line and blew the run. Muldowney's Pomona victory leaves her just 5 short of her old rival Don Garlett's career record of 21 national wins. Shirley calls that the ultimate record in drag racing. Quick look at other Winter National results. A good day for the Franks. Frank Hawley took the funny car title. Frank Iaconio claimed the Pro Stock Championship. A big story has been brewing in American road racing. The rumor mill says the Long Beach Grand Prix will bid farewell to the Formula One crowd and become an IndyCar race next year. Our sources tell us that rumor becomes fact with an announcement March 28th, the day after this year's Long Beach race. Back at Daytona for a moment, here's a guy who's been getting a lot of attention. Baseball star Reggie Jackson is part owner of Tim Richmond's Grand National car. There is increasing speculation that one of America's best known and most wealthy car nuts may soon jump into motorsports with both feet, fielding his own Winston Cup team next year. 2 weeks ago, TBS Sports brought you live coverage of the 24 Hours of Daytona, kickoff of the Camel GT campaign. Many of those drivers now gearing up for a major new race next weekend. Traditionally, the GT cars and stars get 6 weeks to lick their wounds after this grueling Daytona battle and to prep for another stickler at Sebring. But this year, straight from the high banks of Daytona to the flat city streets of Miami, Florida. The persistent question, will the course be ready for next week's Miami Grand Prix? Dave Dietrich has a report.
When the green flag is unfurled in Miami on February 26th, the people of Miami will be witness to one of the world's richest sports car races, with prize money in excess of $200,000. But the big question is, will the race course be ready in time for the start? The Miami Grand Prix, it looks like it's not completed yet. You have people working all over the place. The construction is going on. Is it ahead of schedule?
Yes, Dave, it is ahead of schedule. In fact, we are about 2 days ahead of schedule. It looks like the whole city is torn up, but we feel like we'll be ready in time for the green flag on Saturday morning when we start qualifying and practice.
How much repaving have you done, and how much construction as far as fencing, chicanes, etc., have gone into this?
Well, the barriers, the circuit's 1.95 miles, so you can figure how many barriers we had to put in. You just have to double it. Of course, 30,000 lineal feet of fencing. The curb cuts basically were minor. We just moved a few trees and moved a few curbs and took out a few islands, and which we're going to replace when the race is over. The city's agreed to let us do this because basically there were simply minor things that had to be done.
Miami Motorsports has spent all the money for this, and the city of Miami hasn't spent a dime. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Miami Motorsports is has foot the bill for everything. We've not asked the city for a penny. We've done it all on our own, and we're financed right through the race. No problems.
On February 26th, the Miami Grand Prix will take place. The big question was, will the pre-race preparations be ready in time for the start? The promoters say they will be. For MotorWeek Illustrated, this is Dave Dietrich in Miami.
One disappointing note in that otherwise bright Miami Grand Prix picture. Last week we told you Brian Redmond would come out of retirement to substitute in that race for former world champ Alan Jones, who's also coming out of retirement, but then fell off a horse and broke his hip. Now, if all that's kind of confusing, don't worry about it. The team's Australian-built Chevy Monza can't get to the States in time for the race, so it's been scratched from the lineup. Meanwhile, Jones' return to American racing comes in April in Riverside, California. Earlier today, we told you about the drama of Monday's pole qualifying that established the front row for tomorrow's Daytona 500. That drama continued on Thursday as they set the rest of the field. Ned Jarrett and Bob Varsha tell us about it.
The twin Uno 125 qualifying races are always exciting here at the big Daytona International Speedway, and today's were no different. Darrell Waltrip took the lead in the outset in car number 11, moving by the pole setter Ricky Rudd, but a caution came out when Bruce Jacoby had one of the worst accidents we've seen here at the Daytona International Speedway. After the green flew again, A.J. Foyt took over the lead. Looked like that he might win in a stock car for the first time in many years, but Dale Earnhardt had different ideas on the last lap as he drafted around Foyt, bringing Buddy Baker with him. Earnhardt took the lead, Baker second, Foyt wound up in third place. Then in the second 125-miler, Jeff Bodine and Richard Petty took off from the pack. Looked like they might pull away, but then a tremendous wreck with Rusty Wallace involved this time brought out the caution. That, too, was one of the worst we've seen here. When the green flew again, Richard Petty took the lead. Looked like he might win, but Neil Bonnet had different ideas on the last lap. You've got that last lap move down pat.
I tell you what, Ned, Butch and Bob, the guys working on the car, Jake Elder, Warner Hodgson sponsoring this thing, we've really got the car working good, and they put a lot of effort out during the winter months, and this is when you get to enjoy it. After the work's done, you come in and race and have a good time.
Got to feel good about your chances in the Daytona 500 tomorrow.
Ned, if that thing will sit there and run for 500 miles, I can't help but think we'll be in contention to win the race, and you know, all we can do is just hope for a chance to be there at the end and see if we can do it.
Well, there's a lot of others that'll be hoping for that chance, too. For MotorWeek Illustrated, this is Ned Jarrett reporting from the Daytona International Speedway.
Ned filed that report on Thursday. This afternoon, Daytona's Halifax Hospital lists Bruce Jacoby in critical but stable condition. Jacoby is diagnosed as having a contusion of the brainstem. A similar injury resulted in the death of Korean boxer Duke Koo Kim last November. Rusty Wallace, Thursday's other crash victim, was released with minor bruises after a routine examination. The 25th running of the Daytona 500 shows some of the big names scattered throughout the 42-car field. The surprise front row has pole winner Ricky Rudd alongside Jeff Bodine. Behind them are Dale Earnhardt and Busch Clash winner Neil Bonnet. The Petty clan starts 6th and 7th. Roll 4 holds Cale Yarborough, who crashed at 200+ miles per hour this past week. Last year's Daytona 500 pole winner Benny Parsons is in row 7. Defending Grand National champ Darrell Waltrip will start in the 16th row, but should be among the leaders very quickly. Two drivers to watch way down in the field are Bobby Allison, who crashed hard twice this week. He'll start 25th. And young Charger Terry Labonte, who was a title contender last season, starts on the last row. In addition to Speed Weeks, the state of Florida is alive with racing. In the 4-race DIRT Winter Modified Tour, New Yorker Alan Johnson has grabbed the '83 championship. Although Johnson didn't win a race, consistent high finishes assured him the title. The 17th annual World Series of Stock Cars wraps up tonight at the New Smyrna Speedway. After 7 races, Mark Malquit leads the late model division, while Richie Evans heads up the modifieds. Tragedy has clouded this year's World Series. Richard Coffin of Tampa, Florida, crashed Thursday night in the late model race and later succumbed to severe head injuries. Just moments ago, down in Daytona, Darrell Waltrip won the Goodies 300. Morgan Shepherd led the majority of the race, but dropped back to 5th position after a late pit stop. Across the seas, Niki Lauda has been involved in a skiing accident and is expected to miss the March 13th Brazilian Grand Prix.
Time now to name our champion spark plug racer of the week, and it's no surprise that he comes from Daytona, but the choice is one of the toughest our editorial staff has ever had to make. A lot of consideration went to Cale Yarborough. It takes such courage to come back from this kind of horrendous crash as Yarborough did to run 196 miles an hour in qualifying. But in the final analysis, our vote went to Neil Bonnet. Nobody could blame Bonnet if he looked past this season to 1984 when he'll become Grand National champ Darrell Waltrip's teammate and drive for Junior Johnson. The ride that he elbowed past Darrell Waltrip on the final lap of the Busch Clash is a lame duck. Joe Ruttman campaigned that car without much success last year. But Bonnet's making the most of that ride. Monday, he won the Busch Clash and $50,000. Then the youngest member of the Alabama gang came back with a photo finish victory in a Thursday qualifying race. So for his daring and skill in bringing a dark horse car to the front and for his brilliant performance in Speed Week thus far, Neil Bonnet is our champion racer of the week. With that, we're about set for the Daytona 500. Green flag tomorrow at noon. We like to think we do a good job in covering motorsports. We'd like to tip our hat to CBS because they do too. Thanks to them for some of our highlights today. And our executive producer, Ken Squire, will host their telecast of the race tomorrow. Next Saturday, we'll be live from Richmond, Virginia, and a stock car racing legend will be my co-host. Next Sunday, TBS Sports has live flag-to-flag coverage of the Richmond 400. I'm Dave Despain. We'll see you next week.
MotorWeek Illustrated was brought to you by Redman Chewing Tobacco. The Redman reaction is satisfaction. And by Dodge, America's largest line of front-wheel drive cars. Makers of the new Dodge 600 ES, America's driving machines.
Bobby Allison, last year's Daytona champion, has had what you might call a tough week. Shown here getting out of his car after a crash on Monday to the relief of the crowd. There was